3 sinister cybercrime stories exposed. Haunting secrets that will leave you spine-chilled. Claire's heart raced. It wasn't just another morning hustle in her cozy Westerville home. It was the calm before the storm. She fed Ellie and Max while the sun kissed the kitchen window. The sound of cereal crackling was the ultimate comfort. But as twilight approached, the familiar warmth of their safe little world began to warp. Her phone lit up like a firework display in the dark pings that tugged at her insides. Spam? Maybe. But deep down, she sensed something sinister. Days rolled by like an unsettling dream, until one horrifying evening when she scrolled through her social media. Blood ran cold as she stared at the screen-stolen images of her children. Their bright smiles twisted into grotesque distortions plastered across shadowy forums. Panic surged. She could hardly breathe, the air thick with dread. Who would do such a thing? Her mind raced back to Ethan, the cheerful IT guy who had set up her digital security system. His expertise had once wrapped her life in comfort. Now it felt like a chokehold. Determined to pull back the layers of her unease, she hopped in her car to confront Ethan. The neighborhood she'd once seen as a sanctuary morphed into a gallery of suspicion. Familiar faces turned away, masks of apprehension slipping into view. Was she imagining it? Or could they feel the heavy pull of something wrong? Deeper dread sank in as she approached Ethan's house. Its flickering lights almost mocking her that no answer came when she rang the doorbell. Just silence, grim and heavy. Resolute, she retreated to her phone. A neighborhood Facebook group would provide backup, she thought. But instead of support, the replies snickered back at her. She was paranoid. Crazy even. Words echoed in her mind. If only they knew, she thought, as her heart sank deeper into the abyss with every passing moment. Hours later, in the oppressive stillness of midnight, strange sounds slithered from her backyard. Claire grabbed the flashlight, her hands trembling as she stepped outside, the chill creeping along her spine. The beam cut through shadows, revealing nothing until a figure nestled between the trees. Claire's breath hitched. Ethan stepped forward, grinning wide, a sight so intimate yet terrifying. "Claire," he said, voice oily with intent, "I've been watching you. You have no idea how easy it is to manipulate people like you." Ice coursed through her. Panic clenched her gut, and her mind raced, piecing together the unsettling clues. The impending dawn felt like a cruel joke, blurring the lines between protector and predator. Could she outsmart him? Escape this living nightmare before it swallowed her whole? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With dawn just a whisper away, Claire felt the lightweight darkness carry its last breath. As she stood squaring off against the man she'd once trusted, she understood the true horror this tangled web of familiarity and veiled menace could unravel everything she fought for. Could she save Ellie and Max before the shadows swallowed them irrevocably? Or was she too late, trapped in this sinister game where trust had been its own worst enemy? Claire's breaths came fast and shallow, panic clawing at her throat. Ethan's grin widened, revealing teeth too sharp and too white against the darkness. He took a step closer, the cold air thickening with an unspeakable threat. She couldn't let him in, not to her home, not to her children. Survival instincts roared to life, overriding her shock. "What do you want, Ethan?" Claire demanded, her voice trembling as she gripped the flashlight. She could see the deranged excitement in his eyes, gleaming like desperate stars in a dead sky. "Oh, you know what I want," he purred, leaning in. "You've been so busy with your little life, worrying about your precious kids. You never considered the bigger picture, the entertainment we could create together." "What do you mean? What are you talking about?" Fury ignited within her, but terror pulled at her heart. Ethan chuckled, a sound that made her skin crawl. "I've told you manipulation is an art. Your kids, Claire, they have a natural talent for drama. I've made them the stars of our little play. The whole neighborhood is in on it, and they just don't know it yet." His words hit her like a brick wall. Her children, used as pawns in Ethan's twisted game? The images still haunted her. Each snapshot of Ellie and Max twisted into nightmarish caricatures. Fire and rage battled against helplessness deep in her gut. Desperate for a way out, she glanced around, searching for something, anything. She needed to stall, buy time until she could get back inside and lock the door. "What's the plan then? You want me to just sit back and watch while you whatever it is you're planning?" A chilling laugh echoed back at her. The trees seemed to bend towards them, eerie witnesses to this horror unfolding. "Oh, it's much more than that, Claire. You can join in on the fun. You're the lead actress. No one needs to know who you are. Just live the part. I'll take care of the rest." Claire's heart pounded. A thought struck her like lightning. She couldn't go down without a fight. "You're sick, Ethan. This isn't some game." "Not a game." He stepped forward again, his silhouette stretching menacingly. "But it is. Isn't life just a stage? Claire? Think of it as a grand performance, where everyone has their part to play. They just need a little push." She closed her eyes for a split second, breathing in the cold night air, trying to gain clarity. He was twisted, broken. She couldn't reason with him. But what could she do? Claire slowly backed away, calculating her next move. Something rustled nearby. She flinched, her heart thudding louder with uncertainty. Delay him. Just a moment longer. "You don't have to do this, Ethan. Let the kids go. This isn't who you are. You were good once." He burst into laughter again, this time deeper, darker. "Good? That fading memory, sweet Claire. And maybe it's time you faced the reality of this world." With each second ticking away, Claire felt the net tighten around her, their fate hanging by a fragile thread. Suddenly, her phone vibrated violently in her pocket, breaking the tense silence. She whipped it out, hoping against hope for a sign. A call for help. The screen glowed. A message from her neighbor, a photo. It was blurry, two figures lurking near her children's playset. Who were they? Were they watching? "Looks like I have guests, Claire. Let us see who's really interested in your little family." The shadows around them flickered, and she felt the world tilt once more. Claire's heart raced, the looming horror creeping ever closer. She needed to act, and fast. But could she save Ellie and Max in time? The sense of dread choked her as the night deepened, the whispers of the wind promising something far worse than she could imagine. What would happen next? Would she awaken the hidden monsters lurking in the darkness? Claire's mind raced, but fear anchored her in place. Ethan continued to smirk, as if he reveled in her panic. She needed a distraction, needed to take the focus off the creeping darkness that surrounded them. "What if I played your game, Ethan?" She spat, desperation lacing her voice. "What do you want me to do?" He paused, his eyes narrowing to slits, the excitement flickering like a candle in the wind. "Now you're talking," he whispered, stepping back, assessing her like a predator sizing up its prey. "By playing along, you just might save them, but you can't falter. Not for a second." Her mind flooded with thoughts of Ellie and Max. Every second he delayed was a second further from safety. Claire was willing to risk everything to divert Ethan's attention while she thought of a plan. "This isn't what you want. You like attention, don't you? If we turn this around, let us make it about you." Ethan's lips curled. His amusement was palpable. "Clever girl. I always liked a strong character." He drifted back into the shadows, the tension clinging in the air like a noxious fog. "But don't think for a moment this will be easy. The neighborhood can be unforgiving." Claire took a small step back, the cold bite of fear mingling with the chilled air. "What do you mean?" "Let us just say they're not the friendly neighbors they pretend to be. And they're waiting for the right cue to join this show." The reality crashed in. This wasn't just about him anymore. The impact of his words echoed in her head like a distant drum. The photo still glared at her from the phone screen. She needed to buy time to get to her children. But would the neighbors really join him? "Whatever you are planning for them, we can find a different way, Ethan. Why not just let them go?" He tilted his head, intrigued. "You're beautiful when you're desperate. but they can't survive without a bit of chaos in their lives. It's a necessary evil. The shadows behind Ethan shifted. Claire sensed movement, saw shadows flickering just beyond him. She prayed it wasn't her imagination. If there were truly others lurking, they needed to be lured in, isolated. I can help, she pressed, adrenaline surging through her veins. I can bring you the chaos you crave, but only if you let me speak to my kids first. It'll be more fun to watch them squirm with your direction. Ethan's dark eyes widened, and Claire saw the flicker of interest behind his madness. You think you can manipulate me? His voice was low, deadly. But I do like an actress who is willing to do whatever it takes. Let me show you. Claire felt a strange wind tugging at her, egging her on. They'll perform for you. Just give them a chance. Don't you want the sovereign thrill as they take the stage? The silence stretched, and for a moment, all was still. Ethan weighed her proposition. She had his attention. Now she had to maneuver. But once you do this, he said finally, his voice like ice, there'll be no turning back. We'll both be in this together. From the depths of the shadows, Claire caught flickering glances, more than one pair of eyes watching. Her gut twisted, dread consuming her. The risk was monstrous, yet she had no choice. Just as he opened his mouth to respond, a loud crash erupted from the direction of her home. The sound ricocheted in the night, an ominous, fateful echo. Both of them turned towards it, faces pale and taut with fear. Let us see what your prized family is up to. Ethan's voice rang, deranged excitement filling the air. Claire stood frozen. Adrenaline shot through her like a current. No! She screamed, shoving her way past him toward the house. Panic coursed through her veins. She had to reach them before it was too late. Suddenly, a sinister laugh followed her, cutting through the night. Let the games begin. With a heart-pounding rush, Claire dashed toward her home, dread clawing at her. Knowing the real terror had only just begun. Would she make it before he unleashed his chaos? A figure loomed just beyond the door, and in that instant, she realized she might not just be fighting Ethan, but the very darkness hiding behind every friendly facade. What awaited her inside the home she thought was safe might prove to be a far graver danger than she could ever imagine. Claire charged toward her front door, heart pounding ferociously in her chest. The wood appeared twisted, like a living thing, unwilling to open. She flung her shoulder against it, but the entrance barely budged. Ellie! Max! She shouted, her voice echoing over the wind, mixing with the dull thud of her own heartbeat. Each second felt like a dagger, slicing deeper into her resolve. The crash she heard before reverberated again, echoing through the house. It was a sound of chaos, as if furniture was being upended. A surge of terror washed over her. If something had entered, she didn't know what it could be, and Ethan's earlier words twisted in her mind. The neighbors? What did he mean? She pushed with all her strength, and the door finally creaked open. She staggered inside, narrowly avoiding the threshold that felt like an abyss waiting to swallow her. The dim light flickered like a dying ember. It cast long shadows, making her living room seem larger, more menacing. The sofa was turned over, cushions scattered like discarded hopes. She surveyed the scene, panic clawing at her throat. Mom! A small voice shrieked from the kitchen, fishing through the darkness. Claire rushed toward it, but halted when she heard a soft whisper, a voice that was not Ellie's. Sure they can hear you, it hissed, slippery and sinister. Claire's blood froze. She strained to pinpoint the sound, knowing immediately she wasn't alone. Footsteps creaked upstairs. The thudding echoed again, each step heavy like a heartbeat from hell. Her heart raced as she centered her focus. Ellie and Max had to be protected. Stay quiet, Claire hissed, inching forward. She edged into the kitchen, and there was Ellie, her daughter, pale and wide-eyed, clutching her brother. Max's face was buried in her neck, trembling. Relief surged through Claire, but it was short-lived. The temperature plummeted. Claire shivered. An unnatural chill washed over her. Without thinking, she grabbed the kitchen knife, gripping it until her knuckles turned white. Facing her children, she felt the weight of the moment. But as they inched closer, something flickered in the corner of her eye. A shadow loomed by the staircase, darker than the hallway itself. It stretched, twisting like a serpent, before a figure slowly emerged from it. "Ethan, looking for these?" he called, his voice oozing malevolence as he held up a delicate necklace, Ellie's favorite, glinting with an eerie gleam of mischief. "No," Claire erupted, a surge of maternal fury propelling her forward, knife raised. But then she hesitated. Was it worth the risk? If Ethan was instigating a game, it could turn deadly in an instant. "What a lovely family you have," he said, weaving through the shadows with ease. "But I'm afraid this home is not the sanctuary you thought it was." Claire's grip tightened. "Get away from them." Ethan's smile widened, revealing teeth too sharp, his eyes crazed with delight. "You see, I told you they're waiting. Everyone in this neighborhood has a role to play. But tonight, the stage is yours." There was a rustle outside. Claire caught a flicker of movement through the window. Faces appeared, neighbors she once waved to. They loomed, shadows tangled with the night, watching, eager. "Join us," Ethan taunted, a cruel glint in his eye. "Tonight, you're the star. Show everyone what you can do." Despair clawed at her. What game did he have planned? She could feel their eyes, 100 pairs, drinking her in. The darkness wrapped around her, invading her thoughts. If neighbors were allies, it invoked a terror she never fathomed. She turned back to Ellie and Max, the children clinging to each other, snatched unwillingly into a horror they were too young to comprehend. "Run," Claire whispered, breaking the silence laden with dread. "Run and hide now." But Ethan laughed, a chilling resonance that froze Claire to the bone. "Where would they go? The night belongs to me, to all of us." The walls trembled, the air thickened. Claire shook with the weight of the decision before her. Could she truly protect them? As shadows tightened around them, Claire realized one thing. She was about to become part of Ethan's twisted performance. And deep down, she understood there might be only one way to escape the horror. What must she do to save her children? The stage was set, and the true game was just beginning. Claire's heart thundered in her chest as Ethan's laughter pierced through the stillness. It echoed in the corners of the room, mingling with the chaos that surrounded her. She had to think fast, every second mattered. "Ellie, Max, listen to me." Claire breathed, trying to suppress the panic clawing at her throat. She leaned closer to her children, her breath a whisper, trying to shield them from Ethan's piercing gaze. "I want you to go to the basement. You know where the secret door is, right? Go now. Stay quiet, and don't come out until I say." Ellie looked terrified, clinging to Max as if he were her lifeline. "But Mom," the girl started, tears welling up in her eyes. "Do it, please," Claire urged, feeling desperation creep into her voice. Without another word, Ellie tugged Max's hand, and they slipped away into the shadows, slowly retreating as Claire kept her own eyes fixated on Ethan. She felt a pang in her chest as they disappeared, but she couldn't focus on that now. The stakes were too high. Ethan stepped into the kitchen fully, his presence draped in a sinister warmth. "You think hiding will save them?" His voice dripped with mockery. "You're all part of this. You always have been." Claire swallowed hard, gripping the knife tighter. "What do you want?" she demanded. Frustration bubbled beneath her fear. "You can't do this." "Oh, but I can," he said, his smile too wide, his eyes gleaming with a madness that made Claire's stomach churn. "You see, dear Claire, it's not just a game. It's a performance, and everyone has a role: the hunters, the hunted, and the ones who choose to run. But running only makes it more fun for me." The room felt like it was closing in on her. Claire took a step back, careful not to show her panic. The windows revealed nothing but darkness, and the quiet buzzing of the neighborhood now seemed ominous. Then she remembered. Ethan had said everyone had a role. She could still play one too. A crazy idea pulled at her mind. "Why are you doing this?" she asked, her voice steadier than she felt. "You don't have to hurt us." Ethan leaned closer, an eager spark lighting his eyes. "Ah, but you see, it's not just about hurting, Claire. It's about revealing who everyone truly is. And I'm here to help you with that. Everyone deserves a chance to show their true colors. Tonight, you'll see." Sudden banging shattered the tension, a loud thud at the front door, then a series of screams from outside. The faces Claire had glimpsed before now burst into the house. frantically crowding the space as if it were a spectacle. Some appeared familiar, people from the neighborhood, while others were masked in shadows. "Help us!" a voice cried, pushing through the chaos, desperation heavy in the air. Ethan waved lazily at the crowd. "See? Your friends need you. Or are they? You decide." Claire's instincts flared. This wasn't just about her children anymore. It was about everyone who had ever stood beside her, who had ever smiled at her outside the grocery store. They were now puppets in Ethan's sickening game. "Get away from them!" she shouted at Ethan again, brandishing the knife with renewed determination. Laughter erupted once more, and Claire couldn't shake the feeling of isolation closing in. Outside voices merged into one cacophony: pleas, screams, mocking laughter. It became a blaring alarm, urging her into action. Then, a shadow flickered behind Ethan, a shape crawling from the abyss of the house. A knowing dread settled into Claire's gut. What else awaited her inside those walls? "Everyone has a role, Claire," Ethan taunted, his gaze unwavering. "But are you ready to accept yours? Can you confront what's waiting for you?" As the shadow shifted, revealing yet another figure, Claire felt her breath hitch. This wasn't just a battle for survival. It was a descent into the very horror that she had tried to escape. The air grew heavy, and her grip on the knife felt less like a weapon and more like a desperate prayer. Would she manage to save her children and those she once called friends? Or was she becoming part of the horror unfolding within her own home? The stage was no longer set. It was an open arena of terror awaiting her next move. Claire's breath caught in her throat as the shadow extended from behind Ethan. It coalesced into form a figure she recognized. A distorted version of someone she'd known. The face was familiar but twisted, unhallowed by fear, marking the further unraveling of her world. "Margot?" she gasped, the name barely a whisper on her chapped lips. Margot had been an acquaintance, sharing coffee on dull weekdays, swapping benign secrets about house sales and kids. But now, her features were marred with dread and a hollowed smile that suggested she was trapped just like Claire. The raw terror in her wild eyes begged for help, but a soundless howl escaped her lips. Ethan's laughter cut through Claire's fear, a blade slashing through the suffocating tension. "Oh, the first act is always the most interesting," he crooned, watching Margot with an observer's intrigue. "Gaze upon what this night has revealed. Cinderella, meet your prince or beast, however you want to see it." "Stop!" Claire screamed, the knife trembling in her grip as she took a step forward. Margot's expressive face twisted in agony, and something deep within Claire snapped. There was no reason left for hesitance. These were not the people she once knew. They were part of Ethan's macabre play. "Leave her alone." The words tore from Claire's throat with raw intensity. With a sudden determination, she charged toward them, ready to confront both Margot and Ethan. That it felt as if time stood still. Chaos surrounded her, screams mingling with laughter, desperate pleas drowning in a sea of insanity. Then, like a surge of adrenaline through her veins, she flung the knife towards Ethan, aiming for the heart of the monster. But in an instant, he dodged, a malice dancing in his eyes as he caught the blade midair, twisting it with a flick of his wrist. It shattered into shards of metal that spiraled into the darkness, leaving Claire defenseless, a slow chill creeping up her spine. "Oh, you thought your savagery was clever?" he mocked, leaning closer. "But you have only embraced despair. You think you know fear? What true fear is? Claire, I'll show you." The room pulsed like a heartbeat, the shadows pressing closer, crawling at the edges of her vision. Margot stood frozen, paralyzed in a state of anguish. But Claire couldn't let that fate consume her. There had to be a way out. She just needed to think. With frantic energy, Claire scanned the chaos, the masked figures mingling among the crowd, faces twisted with malice, uncertain alliances forming in the grim atmosphere. What had happened to their neighborhood? The warmth and familiarity had twisted into a grotesque theater of torment. "Run, Margot. Please, run." Claire shrieked, feeling a mix of helplessness and fury welling up inside her. But Margot remained a statue, her defeated gaze now locked onto Ethan as if ensnared by his malevolence. He smiled. It was a smile that scraped against sanity. "Look at them, Claire. Look at these willing participants. Ethan gestured broadly, an orchestra conductor ready to bellow commands. They crave a role in this play more than you know. Or perhaps they fear also a fear that binds them, just like you. Claire stumbled back, the realization slapping her as hard as open palms. This wasn't merely a fight. This was a revelation. Ethan was a puppeteer, and she was tangled in his strings. She thought of Ellie and Max hidden away, hoping they were safe. But even that comfort felt like a far-off dream, a fading light in a dark nightmare. No, she breathed, the shadow of a growing realization twisting her thoughts. From outside, the wails of the crowd grew louder, turning frantic as desperation morphed into something dark. Was there no escape? Yet, amid the panic, a foreign thought ignited her mind. And as it did, terror collided with determination. What if Ethan wasn't prepared for all she could do? I refuse to be part of your sick game, Claire shouted, her voice raw and unwavering. The laughter faltered momentarily. Claire locked eyes with Margot, willing her to break free. Together, we end this. As the crowd shifted, chaos loomed. Larger. Claire could feel the electric tension crackling in the air around them. Could she ignite the last spark that would ignite hope? Or was this show only just beginning? Each breath filled with impending doom reverberated against the fabric of her collapsing reality. Time stretched and twisted, leaving Claire teetering on the brink of savage hope. Would she take a leap into the darkness to save those she loved or vanish into the nightmare that threatened to consume them all? The answer loomed ahead, promising a turning point neither of them could foresee. The world swirled around Claire, heavy with dark energy as Margot remained trapped in Ethan's horrifying grip. Her heart raced, a wild drum echoing in her ears, drowning out the chaos around her. Shadows danced, flickering in and out of the dim room, making it feel less like a space of refuge and more like a pit of nightmares. She could all but see the laughter of Ethan wrapping around the crowd like a noxious scent, tainting their sanity. Margot, snap out of it, Claire shouted, desperation tinging her voice. She reached towards her, willing her friend to see beyond the strings that bound them both. But Margot's eyes stayed glazed, locked on Ethan as if he were a magnetic force drawing her in. The tension twisted tighter, and Claire spun to face Ethan. What have you done to her? To all of them? Her throat burned from fear, but it fueled her resolve. She had to break through, to awaken the willing victims in the crowd. Ethan clutched the air theatrically, reveling in the madness he had orchestrated. Oh, Claire? Sweet Claire, you still don't understand. This isn't just a game, it's a revival. They traded their despair for a role in this dark, glorious performance. He gestured to the shadows, and Claire shuddered at the glimmer of unhinged admiration in his gaze. Revival? Claire echoed, the word sticking in her throat. You mean destruction? The energy shifted as the crowd, tangled in their desolation, started to stir. Murmurs slithered through the throng, some eyes glimmering with recognition, others still veiled in fear. Join us, Claire? Ethan accused, moving closer, his breath a fetid whisper that made her skin crawl. You can be part of something greater, embrace it. You know you want to. No, Claire countered fiercely. I want everyone to wake up. You can't keep them like this forever. Ethan's laughter erupted once more, a maniacal sound that sent chills down her spine. You really think you can save them? Despair is a seductive veil, my dear. Once wrapped in its embrace, who would resist? Aren't you succumbing already? No, Claire screamed, her voice breaking. Margot, please. Fight him. Fight this. Suddenly, in the beautiful chaos of horror, Margot blinked. Just once. For a split second, she seemed to break free from the spell that bound her. The agony etched into her features shifted, almost to clarity, and it was enough to ignite a flicker of hope in Claire's chest. Margot, I know you're still in there, Claire cried, pleading. Remember the mornings we spent sharing coffee? We can laugh again, we can be free. Ethan's face contorted, dark fury flaring in his eyes. No, no, no. You don't control the narrative anymore. He flung his hands towards Margot, and shadows coiled, twisting and hissing as they lunged forward. ready to reclaim their hold. "I control my fate," Claire shouted defiantly. She charged forward, a snarl ripping from her throat. Unarmed, her only weapon was her will and the desperate need to free her friend. Claire lunged at Margot, catching her shoulder to pull her away from the grasping shadows, but in doing so, she felt the ice of the void wrap around her heart. As their bodies collided, Claire's energy vibrated down to Margot's core, sending shockwaves of potential through the dark web spiraling around them. Claire's desperation became a lifeline, a truth tugging at the very fabric of what Ethan had spun. Slowly, Margot's eyes narrowed, confusion surrendering to recognition. "Claire, it hurts, my God," Claire breathed, realizing Margot's voice was breaking through. "Hold on. Fight with me. We can get out of here." Before Ethan could react, before he could reinforce his hold over the chaos, Claire felt something shift inside Margot. It was tiny, a spark. It ignited a sudden warmth, making its way through Claire's grasp and into the darkness that reigned over them. The crowd gasped, gasps that morphed into a chorus of murmured defiance. "Wake up!" Some shouted, others echoed. Desperation transformed into purpose, and as the realization dawned, shadows began to tremble. Suddenly, Ethan reeled back, eyes wide, face contorting with rage. "You think this is a rebellion? This is merely the beginning of your torment." But Claire and Margot had already woven a fragile thread of hope as Claire felt the energy shifting, muting some of the chaos. A horrifying realization surged through her. They had unleashed only a fraction of the potential within the crowd. But how deep did this despair run? And would they be able to pull everyone back from the brink, including themselves? The shadows shivered and pulsed, as if they felt the shift. They were not done. Not by a long shot. And then, from the corner of Claire's eye, she caught a glimpse of Ellie and Max, their faces pale and wide-eyed, standing just beyond the turmoil. Hope spiraled and cracked like glass. "Help!" Claire screamed. A ripple of dread washed over her as she realized the monstrosity they were contending with was just the beginning. What lay ahead was even darker than shadows could hold. As the crowd rallied and the pulse of despair shifted, Claire knew they were on the edge of something much worse, the grand finale, and everything depended on surviving this act. But could they confront the horrors lurking deeper within? Would light finally pierce the darkness? Or would they succumb together to the ultimate nightmare? Claire's heart pounded fiercely against her ribs, a frantic reminder of mortality amidst the overwhelming darkness. The gasps of the crowd echoed ominously, but the shadows surged once more, fueled by Ethan's fury. The oppressive weight of despair bore down harder, thick as smoke, wrapping around them like serpents. "Margot, you need to remember who you are," Claire shouted, barely able to keep the tremor from her voice. Each word felt precious, like levying a war on the darkness that sought to drown them. Margot blinked rapidly, her brow furrowing as if trying to push through a thick fog. "Claire, I don't know how." Her voice, a ghost of its former self, trembled as the shadows crawled closer, interweaving like roots seeking to claim a dying tree. Suddenly, Ethan roared with laughter, his malicious laughter splitting the air like shards of glass. "You think sheer willpower can save you, Claire? You cannot just wish despair away." He stepped forward, shadows engulfing him, swirling and writhing around his form, dark tendrils ready to strike. Desperation clawed at Claire's mind. "No, we're stronger together. Margot, remember our dreams? Our lives?" She squeezed Margot's shoulders, seeking to tether her to the real world, but still felt the icy grip of Ethan's shadows tugging at them. It was a battle she had to win. The chance to unite the crowd stirred something deep inside her, a flicker of rebellion undeniably alive. "Remember," Claire's voice thinned, powerful yet fragile. "All our moments, they're right here. Fight for this." Yet with every moment, the shadows pulsated, feeding off their cries. Claire watched in horror as tendrils slithered towards Ellie and Max, drawing them in with sinister precision. Max's eyes flared wide, fear paralyzing him as he reached for Ellie, who stood a step behind. "No," he yelled, but it was already too late. "Stay close," Claire shouted, extending her arms, urging their friends to break free. The energy shimmering around them coiled into a vicious storm, echoing Ethan's commanding voice. "It's futile, Claire. You cannot resist the tide." The shadows were inching closer, savoring the fear. Claire's nails bit into Margot's skin, desperation morphing into anger. "We might be against the dark, but we're not alone in this." She turned her gaze towards the crowd. "Fight together. Remember." Faces slowly turned towards her, brow furrowed as if recalling long-forgotten memories, a small flame igniting. In that flicker of hope, a voice broke through the abyss. "We'll fight. For each other." Ellie screamed, her voice piercing the darkness. Then there was a ripple, a ground-shaking realization that twisted through Claire's gut. Despair could be transformed, rallied, turned against its captor. One by one, cries emitted from the crowd, tentative at first, but growing in strength. "Wake up. We are more than this." The shadows recoiled, hesitating. Ethan's face darkened with rage, fingers trembling with fury as he unleashed a wave of dread. "Silence them. They cannot break free." Determined silhouettes surged forward, and Claire felt the collective force tightening around her, like fingers interlacing in a fight for survival. The shadows hissed, snapping at the heels of the newfound defiance. "Margot!" Claire screamed again. "Keep fighting with me." But as Margot momentarily flared with awareness, a flash of horror swept across her face. "I can't hold it. The pain is unbearable." Searing heat shot through Claire's psyche. It felt as if her mind could splinter from the pressure. "You want let it take you." She tugged Margot closer, heart racing, knowing time dwindled. With a blinding flash, Margot lunged against despair, pulling Claire beside her as their collective will surged outward. Together, they sparked a cyclone of brightness that swept through the darkness, illuminating the room and forcing the shadows to shrink back, gasping and snarling. Yet just as hope surged, an ominous rumble rolled through the crowd. "They're pushing too hard." Ethan's panicked voice shattered her moment of triumph. "You think this light can protect you? You've only peeled back the layers of what lies beneath." The air thickened, a dark wind swirling flesh much closer to darkness than Claire ever thought. Then, from the floor, cracks began to spiderweb, chasms of blackness threatening to swallow them whole. Claire's skin prickled, dread pooling in her stomach. "What now?" she whispered, realization washing over her and the chaos of energy and shadows. A grotesque shape formed beneath their feet, clawing relentlessly to emerge. Would they pull back from the brink, or plunge into the maw of their darkest fears? The shadows closed in yet again. Claire's vision narrowed as the dark shape writhed beneath them, a horrific echo of despair born from shattered dreams and relentless fear. The crowd stirred, breaths quickening, eyes wide as the shadows reached toward them like hungry hands. Claire stumbled back, bumping into one of the chanting figures a split second, where she felt the warmth of human flesh before a pulse of darkness surged further, chilling her to her core. "Margot, hold on," she cried, trying to pull Margot closer. But Margot seemed lost, trapped in a web of doubt and torment. The shadows hissed aggressively, their cold whispers slithering into Claire's mind, sowing seeds of hopelessness. "Claire, Margot's voice faltered as the shadows coiled tightly around her ankles, anchoring her back. Claire's heart sank. This wasn't just a fight against an enemy. It was a battle for survival against the embodiment of their own deepest fears. From the chaos, Max shouted, "We need to focus. Everyone hold on to each other. Together." His voice carved through the clamor, a beacon in the dense fog of despair. Others rallied, linking arms tightly like a chain bound by mutual strength. They formed a barrier against the darkness, the flickering hope drawing the shadows back momentarily, like a tide receding. Ethan stood at the edge of the chaos, his smile now a twisted sneer, confidence booming as he bellowed, "You think unity will save you? Look how fragile your bond is. One crack and it all comes crashing down." With a sudden roar, the grotesque shape made its move, a monstrous hand tearing through the cracks like a predator rising from the depths of hell itself. Margot's scream shattered the air, tasked to find her voice against the hideous abomination cresting toward them. Claire screamed in tandem, rage mixing with terror. Fight! Remember who we are. She shoved her fear deep within, pouring her essence back into the cyclone of light they decreated. But the shadows had a different plan. They tightened like a coiling snake, gripping her throat suddenly, leaving Claire gasping for breath. Panic pricked at her skin. She would not let Ethan win. Keep going. Don't give in, she urged, digging deep for the strength bubbling beneath the surface of terror. Max and Ellie joined in, their calls melding into a defiant chant, resonating with the collective will. Each person surged toward their echoes of joy and connection they needed to grasp at each shared memory, each laugh, each moment together. The effort strained against the encroaching dark, but a tingling warmth blossomed in Claire's chest. Rising at a brilliant flash erupted from their joined hands, throwing the chilling shadows back momentarily. But just like that, a dark crack in the center of the space grew, pulsing like a heartbeat, and the serpent-like shadows twisted again, crawling forward. Each scrape against the concrete was visceral, a warning. Pull back, Ethan cried, spitting in rage, his expression turning to one of desperation as the darkness consumed him. But rather than break, their bond strengthened. Faces gleamed with understanding. Their shared fears became whispers too faint to remain. Suddenly, Claire felt something gnaw at her mind. A growing urge. The fear offered not just despair but the essence of courage. "We can do this," she shouted, her voice carving through the noise as a crack of light pulsated from within the crowd, rippling outward, swirling the shadows like a tempest. Yet just as the moment blazed, the ground quaked violently beneath their feet. A cacophony rang out, screams merging as the shadow monstrosity erupted from the depths, towering. Its grotesque form twisted and monstrous, a harbinger of horrors untold. Claire's terror peaked, the shadows closing in again as the grotesque figure loomed over them. "It's too strong," she shouted, desperation creeping back into her voice. But then her thoughts turned sharp. What if despair is just a reflection of our own power? As the creature loomed closer, the crowd teetered on the edge of fear and resolve, hanging in the balance. Would they be swallowed whole or finally break free from the dark? The shadows hissed in delight, craving what they believed would be theirs. Would despair consume them, or could they unlock the true strength that lay within each of them? Claire's mind raced as the monstrous figure towered over the crowd, each distorted feature a chilling reminder of the darkness lurking within them all. The air pulsed with fear, and she could see it reflected in the neighbors' wide eyes, some trembling, some hardened by the weight of their past choices. This was the climax of Ethan's twisted game, and they were teetering on the brink of annihilation. "No!" Claire screamed, trying to push back the tide of despair enveloping them. "This isn't the end. Together we can fight this." Faces shuffled, uncertain and frightened, but as she looked past them, Claire spotted Margot struggling against the dark tendrils still binding her. The flicker of recognition in Margot's eyes ignited a rush of warmth within Claire. "Margot," she shouted, determination surging through her. "Remember the light. It's our bond, our love for each other that conquers this darkness." A shadow darted toward Margot, but Claire couldn't let it reach her. "Fight back. Your strength is more powerful than any of this." Margot blinked again, her eyes narrowing with clarity. She locked gazes with Claire, and in that brief moment, the connection shot between them like electricity. "Claire, I'm here." Her voice was stronger now. Claire felt the crowd shifting, the murmurs of doubt transforming into faint echoes of unity. "We are together. We can be free," she cried, and others began to rally. "Yes," Ellie added, clenching Max's hand tightly, his small fingers interlacing with hers. "We have to stay together. We're strong." The chant built, voices rising in a crescendo, a melody of resistance against despair. "Together, together." Ethan's smirk faltered, his dark paper-thin hands curling into fists, confident bravado wavering as the shadows twisted around him, nearly consuming him whole. "You think they can save you? They want this because they crave despair." But unexpected laughter erupted from the crowd. It was laced with defiance, the sound blossoming like wildflowers sprouting in the cracks of a sidewalk. One by one, neighbors began to break through the shadows, memories bubbling to the surface, each laugh igniting understanding. "Remember the block parties?" one man shouted. "The Halloween gatherings? We're not just neighbors. We're a family." The shadows recoiled, hissing as the bond of unity grew stronger. The grotesque figure faltered, flickering between dread and confusion as memories swirled in the air, each pulsating with shared laughter, love, and light. "Margot, we need to amplify that light," Claire called, feeling the energy cascading between them. She pulled everyone closer, hands intertwining as they formed a tight ring around the towering shadow. Now, together, they merged their voices in one passionate symphony. "We won't let you take us. We are stronger than you." The brilliance surged, forming a white light, pushing against the darkness like dawn breaking through a long night. The space illuminated with an intensity that swallowed the shadows, revealing their true forms, vulnerable and weak. Ethan, now besieged by the light, hissed, fear pooling into his features. "No, this can't be. You're supposed to be lost." With one final surge of seized hope, the light burst out from their circle, engulfing the creature, Ethan's shadowy form contorting with rage, screaming as the brilliance consumed him whole. The sound echoed across the neighborhood, sending shockwaves flying through the depths of night. And just like that, with a blinding flash, the shadows withered away, leaving behind only the gentle, warm glow of the rising sun. Silence settled in the aftermath, breaths released in collective relief. Claire scanned the group, eyes locking on Ellie and Max, who emerged from shadows, tentative yet hopeful. She rushed to them, pulling them into a tight embrace, the warmth of their little bodies grounding her against the panic that had threatened to swallow her whole. They were safe. They could breathe. The nightmare was over. Nearby, Margot's eyes sparkled with tears of relief, reflected in the faces of their neighbors who began to emerge from their stupor. They were free. "Thank you," Claire breathed, looking toward her former friends, now allies. "We did this together." They nodded, voices trembling yet resolute, each of them a part of this rejuvenated community touched by darkness but guided back to light. As the sun climbed higher, illuminating their world, Claire felt the weight of fear lift, replaced by a newfound courage. They would rebuild, recount their tales, and honor the community they forged in the fire of despair. "We are never going back to that," a neighbor whispered, determination glistening like sunlight shining through the leaves. And as Claire held her children close and caught the glimmer of victory twinkling in their eyes, she knew this journey wouldn't define them. They would emerge stronger, woven together by the bonds of love, reprisal, and hope. This chapter would close, but their story, the story of survival, had just begun. Everyone needed to hold on to their light, because together they could face anything. Now, if you loved that gripping conclusion, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to give the algorithm the fuel it needs. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Tell us what you think. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support means everything.